Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Friday again. As usual, do say oh dear. Let's let me put my teeth back in properly and we'll start. Definite lack of sugar or coffee or something this morning. Good morning. Hello to everyone. If you are there, please, as always, do pop a hello in the comments so that I can be on my very best behaviour and best manners and say hello back to you. Good morning, Mendy. Good morning, Sylvia. Good morning, Carla. Good morning, Senia. Good morning, Stu. Good morning, Trudy. Good morning to everyone on this very, very rainy morning in the south of England. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Willow Moon. Good morning, Aloha, Elisa. Good morning, Alison. Good morning, Tracy. Good morning, Susie. Wow, lots of people. Hello, hello, hello. Definite hay fever this morning, so bear with me. Good morning, Penny. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Rachel. Yes, very wet morning down here in the south of England. It's chucking it down. Good morning, Christine. And Eric will woof you when he wakes up because he's asleep. He's had a hard morning already doing nothing. Good morning, Tess. Yeah, I have to say that the weather this morning is definitely not good for summer solstice. It's very damp. Good morning, Xenia in Hamburg. It's already 25 degrees and we'll be up to 32. Phew. Yeah, that's warm. Funnily enough, it's been really warm here this week, but although it's still warm today, it is very wet. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Lani. Good morning, Michelle. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Welcome to summer solstice weekend. I think it's probably one of the most celebrated of the Sabbats, perhaps, other than Samhain, obviously, which everyone celebrates because it's my birthday. Born on Halloween, my fate was set, really, wasn't it? Jane says, my tomato plants are loving this rain. Yes, the garden's loving it. Good morning, Shelley. Good morning, Barbara. Yes, I must admit the garden is heaving a big sigh of relief for the rain, that's for sure. But rain and the summer solstice don't really go together very well. Not really the type of weather you want to be sitting up in all night ready to greet the dawn. Very, very damp. Good morning, Eva. Good morning, Lizzie. You've got blue skies in southwest Wales. Send some over airway, Lizzie. That would be lovely. Thank you. Lani says, are you? Yeah, sound croaky. It is hay fever. I spent yesterday afternoon drying rose petals for our daughter's wedding next year. And I spent the whole afternoon in with the rose petals. So the hay fever today is attacking me. I feel absolutely fine. Thank you. Just the voice is going a bit. Senia loves my T-shirt. Thank you. You have to be a Star Trek fan to understand the joke. Good morning, Kay. Voice. I'm feeling fine, people. Thank you so much. It's just a bit of hay fever. Tess says our birthdays are 2 days apart, 2nd of November. All the best people, Tess. All the best people. Christine, feel sorry for you with the hay fever. Yeah, as a gardener, it's not very good. I'm also allergic to pet hair. There you go. Maybe lovely Peter will make your coffee. Yeah, see, I don't like instant coffee, Christine. I don't really like coffee. I just like caramel latte. Nice idea, though. Good morning, Leslie. Good morning, Christine. Jane says, my lovely witchy Nan was born on Samhain too. Perfect. Okay, time for a caramel latte. How well you know me. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, dandelions and dryads. Some very, very lovely stuff on the Dandelions and Dryads Facebook page if you'd like to pop over and have a look, everyone. Some very beautiful creations. Michelle, I get the joke. Ensign Smith always gets killed off. Yeah, whenever they go on a landing party to some foreign planet, alien planet. Hang on, it's the computers. No, I don't want to restart. I'll restart tonight. Thank you. Computer talking to me. Whenever the Star Trek team go to an away mission on an alien planet, there are always one or two red-shirted crew members that you've never seen before, that you never see again, because they are ultimately the ones that are killed off in that episode. Very rarely do they even get to speak a line, and if they do, that is their fate sealed. They are goners for sure. So it's a bit of a standing joke that if you've got a red shirt in Star Trek and you aren't the main cast, pretty sure you're going to die in that episode. Good morning, Martina. Good morning, Erin. Good morning, Joe. Jane, no latte in the house. We'll have to settle for caramel slim fast. That's a poor substitute, Jane. Definitely a poor substitute. Lani says, I've had to move my veggie pots so they're protected because of the weather. The rain actually can be quite damaging, can't it? I bet I haven't looked out there since first thing this morning, but I bet there's an awful lot of rose petals on the ground in her garden. Xenia says, yes, red shirt crew are the canon food. There's a husband. Hello. Oh, I've got a herbal tea. I'm going to say hello to everybody. Thank you. I have a peppermint and licorice tea. Where's the chocolate cake? Christine used to go to the sci-fi conference in Bournemouth. Fantastic. I love Star Trek. Love Star Trek. Love Red Dwarf. Love Stargate Atlantis. Love Stargate SG-1. Yeah, that's me. Quite happy. Good morning, Kerry. Is everyone saying good morning to Pete? I'm not going to drink my tea. It'd be too hot. Willow Moon says cake is a well-known cure for hay fever. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, Michelle has 100 degrees plus heat in South California. That I would melt. I would seriously melt. Christine says, Pete, you're a treasure. He is, Christine. Every home should have a Pete. So today, because, like our usual, hello, Sue says, can't go on with Deep Space Nine. It's probably my least favourite, Sue, for sure. I like good old Next Gen. I love Enterprise, actually, like Voyager. Yeah, Deep Space Nine is probably my least favourite too. Good morning, Sal. I'd rather watch Stargate Atlantis over all of them, really, but it's all good. Anyway, Solstice Magic. We have the summer solstice coming up. We have 2 solstices. There's always too many S's in that. Solstices a year. One in the winter, one in the summer. It is all to do with the Earth's orbit around the sun. So the summer solstice, the midsummer. Midsummer is what I used to call it when I was a teenager. In my youth, my late teenage years, when I was a member of Petersfield Young Farmers, we used to have a midsummer ball every single year. It would be held in an enormous barn on someone's farm somewhere, and it would all be decorated, and there would be a stage with a big live music. We'd all dress up in our evening dresses, in our ball gowns, in our tuxedos, and we would have a ball on Midsummer's Eve. It would last right round until 2 or 3 in the morning, when a food van would pull up with bacon sandwiches for everyone, and then we would all sit and watch the sunrise. Fantastic. Not sure I could cope with it these days. In bed by 8 o'clock with my book. I'm so old. But then we used to just call it midsummer, and that's what we knew it as, and I think a lot of people probably do. More modern name is Litha, although that is linked to an Anglo-Saxon word, which actually refers to the period of time. It refers to June and July rather than specifically the solstice, I believe. But that's a more modern name for it, and we all know what it means. We all recognise it. It is when the sun reaches highest point of the year. We get the longest amount of daylight hours and the shortest night. The sun is apparently either farthest north or south from the Earth's equator, depending on which solstice you're looking at. Solstice means, there's all sorts of technical science stuff. it is in my Sun Magic book if you're into the science side of it. Solstice just means when the sun stands still. So there's so many S's in that. I do feel like I need new teeth today. Obviously, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's all thrown upside down. If you happen to be in the area of the Arctic Circle, just in case you're planning, a trip on the summer solstice, you would get sunlight for a full 24 hours. And if you're in the south of the Antarctic Circle at that time, you would be in complete darkness for a full day. Interesting. Not sure I could cope with a full day of darkness, but there you go. Michelle, have you seen Discovery on Netflix? Yes. We did watch the whole first series, but it wasn't really Star Trek for me. I thought it was very cleverly done, but not really Star Trek for me. So I'll stick with I'll stick with Jean-Luc Picard and Janeway. Old school, very old school. So we've got the solstice coming up. It is an absolutely brilliant time to work with magic. If, like me, you love working with some magic, the solstice it's like the top of the pile. It's like the, Queen gig at Wembley. Jane says, couldn't cope with Antarctic darkness. Romford has its plus side. Absolutely. Lizzie says Captain Kirk. Now, I'm not a big fan of Star Trek TOS, as we call it in this house. The original series, TOS, yeah. I don't mind watching it because of the total, absolutely wonderful cheesiness of it all. But it isn't my favourite one to watch, I must admit. But no, it's the message that Star Trek has to pass across to everyone is fantastic. So we've got the summer solstice this weekend. So if you work sun magic, it is superpower for sun magic. Associated quite a lot with the fairy world. It is a time when the veil between ourselves and the fairy world is at its thinnest. Fairies are abound, as they say. So if you do work with fairy, it's a brilliant time to make that connection. If you haven't worked with fairy before, please do some research. The idea of the flittery, glittery, gossamer, frilly tutu fairies is very Victorian. The actual real fairy world is a little bit more tricky, shall we say. So definitely do your research before you plunge headlong into working with the fairies. But if you want to, then this is a brilliant time to make connections with them. Sue says tribbles. Yeah, trouble with tribbles. Barbara, my old school is Kirk and Spock. Yeah, Spock is a classic, isn't he? Lizzie, I grew up in it. Mr. Ham was a star. Yeah. Bless. Good morning, Caroline. Jane says that non-stop diddle bing noise in Star Trek used to drive me crazy. I had that as my phone notification ringtone for a while. Yeah, Kay's in Romford as well. Oh, we have a Romford gathering today. Caroline is a huge Trekkie. Yeah, it's yeah, we'll do some of that. It's fantastic. Kia ora from New Zealand, winter solstice for you, Sue. So this is not going to make an awful lot of sense for you at the moment because we're talking about summer solstice. My tea's still too hot. But store it for further use. Oh, you can work any kind of sun magic anyway, at any time of the year, because the sun is always there, unless you live in the, wherever it was, Arctic, Antarctic. The sun is always there, so you can work with sun magic throughout the entire year. I always find it quite strange, actually, that at the summer solstice, it's the longest day of sunlight, but it's also technically called midsummer, although I think in England particularly, it really is the beginning of our summer. So it always confuses me a little bit because we've got, right, that's it. That's all of the hours of sunlight. That's as many as you're going to get this year. And now we're going to start the waning half of the year. But actually, it's the beginning of our summer. So we've got, June, July, August of summer left to go, just to throw a spanner into the works. But that's what happens. The summer solstice is the beginning of the waning half of the year. It's when the Holly King and the Oak King fight. If you are Wiccan, that's your story. And it makes sense. The Holly King and the Oak King battle it out. And the Holly King wins on the summer solstice, and he rules now the waning half of the year up to the winter solstice. Xenia says, fairies aren't that nice, to be honest. I watched a talk on Irish fairies by Janet Ferrara and Gavin Bone, and they don't suggest contacting them. No, I don't either. Only do something about it when they do harm and never offend them. No, they are, and there are particular rules and guidelines and etiquette involved with working with fairy. The fairy world is dark. And I would highly recommend, if you are interested in contacting fairy, having a look at Morgan Daimler's books or her blog, because she works with fairies all the time, and she knows the pitfalls, she knows the folklore, she knows how it can be beneficial. It can be beneficial, but you have to remember that fairies do like to mess about. They do like to mix things up a little bit. But there is a certain etiquette with it, as there is with working with deity as well, I guess. But yes, if you want to go down the fairy path, then I would highly recommend doing proper research first, because it is a bit of a calling to take on. Some of them aren't very nice, but they do have a bit of a bad rap. I think you can have a very successful working relationship with the fairies. You just have to know how to work with them. They can help with healing and all sorts of things, but you have to know how to work with it. So definitely do your research. Hi, Deirdre. Summer solstice blessings to you too. Christine says, I love it because at Knowlton we don't have to wrap up so much. 6 layers of clothes other times of the year. Yes, definitely. Although summer solstice this weekend, you might need your umbrella. Christine says, fairies are much like spicy flies. They've got a sting in the tail. Yeah, there is, I do always give a warning with fairies, and I don't mean to do it to scare people, or perhaps I do. It is a warning that you really, really need to go into working with fairy with some knowledge behind you. It can be an extremely beneficial relationship. You just need to do your homework, because you need to know how to work with them. Michelle says, I think midsummer is around the middle of August. Yes, in England are what we would call the middle of summer. Yeah, probably is, because we have June, July, August, and even into September, don't we, are our sort of summer months. Good morning, Petronella. So, Solstice Magic, definitely fairy, but do your research first. I think summer solstice is really good for communication, for working magic to commune with the fairies, but also to commune with the other world of any kind, deities and any of the other worldly spirits, but communication between family, friends, relationships as well. Really good summer solstice magic is working on your intuition and your inspiration. Both of those things can be worked with on the summer solstice to increase them or to hone them. Intellect, if you're thinking about learning something new, taking on a new course, I am going to be brushing up on my very bad school French. I'm going to be doing a proper course on that for my lovely French readers. Having had 3 of my books translated into French, I feel a bit embarrassed that I'm not able to answer queries properly because my French is so bad. So intellect, brilliant time to start summer solstice, brilliant time to start any courses or learning a new anything. My own pathway, if you watched Abandoned by the Gods last week, you will know that my own pathway is changing. I have a seed of an idea. I have a seed of a direction that's been planted. So summer solstice for me is going to be changing my direction slightly. It's going to be a new journey for me. So summer solstice is brilliant for that. It is really good for movement of all sorts. So any kind of transitions, transformations, summer solstice is brilliant for dealing with any of that, along with a bit of creativity thrown in there as well. Really, really good for all of those changes, all of those transitions. That solar magic can really help you move forward with any of those. Willow Moon, I feel at the summer solstice you've climbed up the mountain. Messages have all disappeared off the screen. Hang on. I feel at the summer solstice, you've climbed up the mountain, and for the next few months, the days relax and get shorter. I'm going to put this on the screen. It's easier, isn't it? They are. And for the next few months, the days relax and get shorter. We have to relax sometime. Perfect. Yes, especially if the weather is good. You can sit in the garden with a book and a glass of whatever, mead, and have a relax. Yeah, perfect time. Yes, I like that analogy, William Moon. Lovely. John says, the fairies have hidden your teacup today. It will turn up somewhere I didn't put it. Oh, they are notoriously bad for doing that. Leave them an offering. If you do find lots of things go missing in your house, it will be the fae up to tricks. It means they want an offering. Never say thank you to fairies. It means nothing to them. The word thank you means nothing to them. What they like is presents. I'm pretty much the same. Gifts, all welcome, all gratefully received. I'm joking. But fairies, they're not worried about the word thank you. What they like is xofferings and gifts, something sparkly or honey or milk. So if things are going missing, do leave them an offering. Xenia says, fairies lived in the area before us, indeed, and humans were invading the area. Oh, we're parasites on this planet, absolutely. So they are the ancient ones and aren't to be messed with. And if people mess with them, it's to humans' harm. Some of the theories that I've read suggest that the fairies obviously were here long before us. We came along, and in the beginning, our worlds lived together. Humans and fairies all lived together. But because we did so much damage, because we were so bad to Mother Nature and so damaging, that the fairies shifted slightly out of phase, which is why we don't see them as we used to, unless you've got a trained eye or you're looking specifically. So although the fairy world is there, it's no longer in sync with ours. It's just slightly out of phase. And that makes sense to me. Fairies look after nature. They are part of the natural world, and we damage it. So, we get everything we ask for, really. We asked the Fae in ritual for help in saving our green space and protecting the wildlife. Once we did, all the right people arrived to help us save it. They will help look after the planet. That's a big part of what they do. They are very, very in tune with nature. All the comments have disappeared again. This is me being techie on the laptop. Christine says, caution with any elementals. That's interesting, because although elementals are part of the fairy world, I do see them slightly differently. The fairy world is huge. It covers everything from elementals to flower spirits, to divas, to dryads, to trolls, the whole lot. It covers such a huge variety. Elementals I see as slightly separate. But as with any of the fairy world, all should be dealt with by researching first and going in with knowledge. Lani says, very exciting. Yes, thank you. I am a bit, it's trepidation, I think is the word. Jackie says, I was always advised that be careful what you ask as they require something from you. Well, I think this is the same with everything, really. We ask help from deity, but you can't keep asking without giving something back. Everything requires a sacrifice of some sort. Everything requires, there's that balance, isn't there? There's that scale of balance. You take something, if you keep taking, if you keep asking, then it is going to go horribly pear-shaped. You do need to give something in return. I think that's just a general. Lani is just about to start a behaviour that challenges course as part of your teaching assistant role. Good luck with that, Lani, but a brilliant time of the year to be starting. Trudy says, I'm often away with the fairies. It's an interesting phrase, isn't it, away with the fairies? It does describe it very well. Sue says, what sort of gifts would they like? All sorts of things go missing here. The traditional offerings for fairies are milk or cream and honey. They're perfect for them. But they like all sorts of shiny things too, just little gifty crystals and things like that. But I would say stick with cream and honey and you're on a pretty good roll there. An offering of, or mead, if you've got some mead, definitely, because who doesn't like a bit of mead. Good morning, Kay. Lack of sleep due to the weather. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to sleep when it's so warm, isn't it? Yes, Tracy says they like shiny things. Oh, and cake. Yes, if you've got cake, the Fae love cake, definitely. And that's a bit, I think, as well about sacrifice. If you have to give up some of your cake for the fairy, it's a huge sacrifice. Joe, would you say they prefer action over words? Oh, absolutely. Saying thank you to fairy means nothing to them. They don't understand the concept or the word. And I am drawing here on Morgan Daimler's works. But yes, it makes sense. Thank you is a modern term. The fairies don't understand it. So definitely action or gifts over words. So doing something for nature or giving them an offering, definitely. Words don't mean anything to them. Christine says, I like Dorian Valiente thoughts on fairies as being little people who used to live in the forest and were green because of living with foliage, and they were mischievous and stole human babies. There are stories, aren't there? Well, if you've seen The Labyrinth with the good old Goblin King, that goblins used to steal babies. It is a huge world. The fairy world is huge. It has such a variety of different beings in it. Karen's explaining she's dandelions and dryads. I know it's you, Karen. Don't you worry. Kay, I saw on TV you shouldn't stand in doorways, myth or fact. Well, the doorway is this in-between place. It is one of those magical places that's in between, like dawn and dusk, the edge of the ocean where it meets the sand or the stones. It is an in-between place, and that's always been one of those magical and mystical places. And folklore says that it is one of those in-between places where you can be whisked away. So yeah, myth or fact, but folklore says that it is an in-between place. So it is quite magical. Michelle says, what crystals correspond to summer solstice workings? I know I'm halfway through and I haven't even got there yet. I have got some crystals for you, Michelle. I will cover that. Lizzie was once visited by a river elemental, dashed around my bedroom, said his name, which sounded like it started with the Z. It wasn't Zorro, was it? Oh, that's showing my age, isn't it? I was ill in bed at the time and I started to improve after. Well, water is healing, isn't it? So water elemental, very healing. Jane says, in Ireland, we were told fairies like the first liquid to come out of a still. It's methanol, not alcohol, so we can't drink it. They chuck it over a designated rock, which people stay away from, and anyone who drinks it is away with the fairies. Yeah, yeah. I think there's quite a lot of folklore where the first draft from a still or the first batch from any kind of cooking or is given to the fairies. It's made as an offering so that they don't mess about with you, basically. Anyway, summer solstice magic, manifesting. Really, really perfect time to manifest, to get anything, any goals, anything you need, anything you want, get manifesting. That solar energy is really going to boost it and push it on its way. And also for reaching your goals. So if you have got any goals that you have been working towards, summer solstice is a good place to kind of tie it up. Xenia says the internet seems also an in-between liminal place. People often get carried away in it and suddenly hours are missing. Oh, absolutely. It's the modern fairy playground, I think. So I have got some info here on sun worship. We'll get to crystals, Michelle, I promise. Kay says often the folklore comes from truth. It might have been stretched a bit, but still fact. Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Everything starts from a seed of truth or fact or experience. So mankind, and I use that as a general term, has been worshipping the sun since he first saw the sunrise. Probably. I don't actually remember it. I'm not quite that old. But the sun still is a source of light, source of power, a source of energy and warmth. It is a source of life. You need the sunlight to grow the crops, to feed the people. And our ancient man would have realized that, obviously, and probably would have started praying to it to make sure the sun came up the next morning. I also wonder if the sun was particularly hot. People wanted to know what they'd done to make the sun so angry that it would burn their skin. I think there's all sorts of things that they would have wondered about that. But the sun would have been really, really important, and they would have started worshipping it. Across the globe, cultures have honoured sun deities and prayed that the sun would come up and present itself each day, from the Babylonians to the Native Americans and everywhere else in between. The sun also has the ability to see everything. This would have given it great power, and still does. And it also may be why we see so many connections throughout myths and legends, that the sun and the image of an eye, because the sun is all seeing. So it would have been tied into the image of an eye. Just moving your comments up. Karen says, I dropped my son off at work one night, and as I drove home, I saw a door open in the wall as a light shone through the gap and a dark shadow go through it. Thought it was odd, and in the morning when I picked it up, I looked at the same place. No wall, no door. Lay off the mead. I think because we are who we are and we do what we do, we're very open to that, to the sensitivities of the other world. Jane says, it's not just time that's missing. I find lots of money goes missing from my bank account as well. That's really weird, Jane. Mine does that. And all of these parcels keep arriving at the door too. I have no idea where they came from. Yeah, just offerings for the fairies to stop them taking things is usually works. But the gods of the skies and the heavens, those that ruled the sun, were worshipped. It often seems they had chariots that they rode across the sky in, which is very cool. The Egyptian sun god Ra is probably one of the most well-known ones. He had a chariot that he drove across the heavens. Greek god Helios was honoured by sending a horse-drawn chariot off the top of a cliff and into the sea. Now, I feel really sorry for the horses there, but, don't think that's a very nice tool, but there you go. The ancient cultures of the Aztecs and the Mayans worshipped celestial bodies and even created detailed calendars based on the movements, which we know all about. The Incans had a festival called, and I will read this, Inti Raymi, excuse my pronunciation. It was suggested was celebrated to anchor the sun, to stop it from moving further north, to keep the days longer and prevent them from shortening. Not a very successful festival. But some cultures credited the sun as the creator of all things, giving birth to the stars even. Early Persians from the cult of Mithra introduced sun worship and honouring in many of their rituals and ceremonies. Archaeologists have uncovered a whole host of ancient structures, temples, buildings that have all been built to align with these celestial bodies, suggesting that the builders worship the sun, the moon, and the stars. Apparently, during the early 17th century, there was a bit of a scientific argument going on about the place of the sun in the universe. The church at the time believed that the earth was at the centre of the universe because man lived on it. Therefore, we were the most important. And that the universe must revolve around the earth. One of the key scientists of the day, good old Galileo, was condemned for his belief that this was incorrect. Science won out, of course, eventually, but that was just one of the things that we believed because we thought we were the most important thing in the world, so everything revolved around us. Wrong, obviously, but there you go. Kay has a tree local to her that has a fairy door, man-made, but it's so cute. They are very cute, and lots of people sell very pretty fairy doors. Just be careful when you're working with them. Joe says, there must be offerings, the strange parcels. Yes, I like thinking. Yes, now Jane's nailed it. Amazon, eBay, and Etsy are all fairies. Yes, yes, definitely. I like your thinking. So there are also many ancient sites. You've probably got some near you. You've probably got some that you know, Stonehenge, for instance, that supposedly were created so that the sun went through a certain spot at a certain time of the year and were used for sun worship. There are many, many places across the globe, basically, that were built wholly or in part to worship the sun or the sun gods. So as you've asked about crystals, I will have I've got a list of them here, obviously. One quick note, if you are used to working with moon water, if you charge your moon water under the moon, do use the summer solstice to make solar water. Put it out in a jar of water on a windowsill where the sun can shine on it, or put it outside with the lid on. Put it out so that it gains the solar energy from the entire day on the summer solstice. And then you've got a jar of solar water, summer solstice solar water, that you can use in magical workings for anointing, cleansing, adding a bit of a boost to any of your magical workings afterwards. So definitely pop a jar of water out, easily done, and you create yourself something fantastic. Jane is going to call her cyber fairies Nozama, Yabi, and Yisti. I like it. I like it. I can see it from here because it's written down. Well, let's show you. So this is backwards, obviously. There you go. Definitely. I like it. Where did that come from? Oh, Nozama sent it. Jane, I do love your way of thinking. Jackie, if you place a fairy door inside your home, is that a bad thing? Yeah. If you want to invite the fairies in your house, do your research first. Be prepared. You would not open your doorway to a group of strange, drunken teenage boys, would you? So don't do the same with fairies. They are very pretty, the little fairy doors. Some of them are beautifully crafted. But unless you want to invite that chaos unchecked into your home, no, I would do your research first. And as with anything, whether it's a deity or a spirit or any fairy, build a relationship first. Be prepared, have your protection in place. Do your research about particular fairies. There are a huge number of them. And go in fully knowledgeable. Would be my words anyway. Sue has Stanton stones and a Roman temple within 5 minutes. Perfect. John says, fairies love money and don't pay their taxes. No, they don't. This has turned into fairies, hasn't it? Not summer solstice. Christine sits in bed and watches the summer solstice sunrise. Perfect. Michelle says, the American Southwest has some Native American sites with alignments to the summer and the winter solstice. Cultures across the world have done it. Jane says, I'll get a bottle of sparkling spring water and charge it. Brilliant. Sparkling spring water would be excellent to charge for solar water. Lisa, yes, don't fall asleep, Lisa. Caroline, there are your new deities. Yeah, I have got a new deity in place. She's calling to me, but I'm not. We'll go there later. Xenia, I wouldn't want fairies inside my home. I think you have to be prepared for it. I think you have to be knowledgeable enough to deal with it. They can be very, very useful allies. They can be very, very helpful, but you need to go in pre-warned, pre-armed. Sue says, if you ask the fairies for help finding things, are you inviting them in to stay or just a one-off visit? Well, there's the thing, isn't it? We have had rituals where we have invited the fairy in and they've been beautiful and magical, but you have to make sure that you ask them to leave. You really don't want them hanging about generally. It's just about being careful with your wording, as with any ritual, really. and building a relationship first. Building a relationship. Carla always felt wary of fairies. Then the Torchwood episode on them made it worse. yeah. You know, just do your research first. Be prepared and learn about them and build a relationship. Karen usually goes to Arbor Low or Alderley Edge at the solstice. Beautiful. Jackie, so I need to remove the door then. It was a gift a couple of years ago and has been by my fireplace ever since. If you haven't had any problems with it, Jackie, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. Only if you find that you're experiencing weird things would I then be concerned about it. Lizzie, we humans have a bit of an ego, expecting the others to be as we are, and they aren't. Oh, absolutely. They are a different race. They don't act like humans. They don't. Why should they? They don't have the same set of rules or etiquettes. Tess says, I have a few fairy doors around the house, and every night I'm woken several times feeling as though something is in the room. Have to put the light on. Never anything there. Maybe now I should put the fairy doors in the box or leave out some cream. I would leave out some offerings. If you've already got fairy doors up, then just leave some offerings for them. Cream and honey. Brilliant. Jackie says, I've not had any unwanted episodes. Although a few bits do go on holiday for a while. If you've got the doors and you're not too worried about it, just leave some offerings out for them. There are good, relationships built with the fairy world. Michelle says her husband gets irritated when fairies hide his keys or his credit cards. Yeah, I would too. Definitely. But, if you're not having any problems with the fairy doors, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But it pays to leave out an offering anyway. Xenia says, yeah, Janet Farrar told about her fairy encounters in real life and was not what people want to have. No, that there are some scary stories because they are a completely different race and they live in a different way. Jane says, if the fairies find what you've lost, don't forget to give them something shiny when you kick them out and don't say thank you. Yeah, no, thank you is pointless. They do want a gift. Christine says, never promise a fairy anything, no matter how light-hearted. They will not tolerate a broken promise. No, they don't. This is it. This is what I'm saying. Do your research. Fairies work in a completely different way. There is a whole other etiquette for working with them. Lizzie says, can you give ideas on how to manifest during this time? I would work with the sun, work with the solar magic, whether it is writing a petition and leaving it out in the sun on summer solstice, or candle magic. Candle magic is brilliant because you bring in the element of fire, which is very much associated with the sun. And visualize. Ask the sun. Tell the sun what you need. It might not be tell the sun what you want. It might provide what you need rather than what you want. But manifesting it, keep it simple, but work with the energy of the sun. And you can literally do that by standing outside and talking to it, just as you would with the moon, really. There are lots of, I'll run through the practical side of it now. There are lots of herbs that are ruled by the sun. Most herbs and plants are ruled by a particular planet, and I am aware that the sun isn't a planet, it's a star, but roll with it. So the plants and herbs are ruled by particular planets, and there are some that are ruled by the sun. And I think if you are working any magic on the summer solstice or any sun magic, and you want to bring in another layer of power to your spell working, then bring in sun herbs, bring in sun crystals, and even sun foods, because that all adds another layer of solar energy to your working. So there's lots that are ruled by the sun. There are lists, she says, thinking I've got a book here somewhere. I don't wave my book around, my husband will get annoyed. There are lists in here of all the different sun magic herbs. There's also lists in here of the sun magic foods, but you will find them on the internet or trust your intuition. They were designated as sun plants because they either looked bright yellow and sunny, or they flowered right in the middle of summer, or their properties aligned them with those of the sun. So if you look at things like bay leaves are ruled by the sun. It's also the element of fire, so it is a good hot one to work with. Bergamot, buttercups, bright yellow buttercups, definitely a sun herb, plant, flower, whatever you want to call it. Carnations, they are very, very healing, one of my go-to for healing, but they're ruled by the sun. Celandine, obviously yellow flowers. Chamomile is one of the herbs that we're probably very familiar with. That is ruled by the sun. Chrysanthemums, big showy flowers, ruled by the sun. Eucalyptus, ruled by the sun. Frankincense is my go-to for a resin, but that's ruled by the sun. It's also the element of fire, so it's got a real punch of energy to it. Hazel is ruled by the sun. Juniper is ruled by the sun. Marigolds, what else would they be, really? Mistletoe, interestingly, is ruled by the sun. All very magical. Morning Glory, ruled by the sun. And another resin, myrrh, that's also ruled by the sun. Oh, frankincense and myrrh, amazing together. And the oak is ruled by the sun. Very, very magical plant. Peonies, you might have them in flower at the moment. They're ruled by the sun. Rowan, also in flower at the moment. That's ruled by the sun. Rue, mine's just about to start flowering, ruled by the sun. St. John's wort, any of the Hypericum family, all ruled by the sun. And of course, sunflowers. What else would they be, really? Michelle says sunflowers are getting ready to bloom. Yes, ours are in Air Garden at the moment is probably about 3 weeks behind where it usually is because we've had such bizarre weather this year. But yeah, sunflowers, perfect. And if you don't want to use the actual petals, you can use sunflower seeds. Use them in your magic. So adding any of those sun herbs and plants to your magic, whether you just sprinkle them on your candle or whether you sprinkle them on your petition and fold it up, whether you just have a sunflower on your altar, you're bringing in that extra magic, that extra solar magic by using the herbs and the flowers. Jane says, just occurred to me, with all your wonderful books, you've carried on where Scott Cunningham was so rudely interrupted by being pulled into another life. Oh, I am about that, Jane. That's a bit of an honour. I'm not sure I could ever live up to Scott Cunningham, but thank you. You're very gracious. Barbara bought a lovely sunstone sphere. Oh, fantastic. Charge it in the sun and place it on my solstice altar. Beautiful. I will. Kay says a fabulous list of plants ruled by the sun. There are a lot of them. If in doubt, use your intuition. Go and stand in your garden and see, okay, plants, which one wants to work with me on the summer solstice? And you'll get some idea. John bought some new carnations called Orange Sherbet. And as I passed them, I break out into the song Orange Squash by R.E.M. Well, we love a bit of singing. We do love a bit of singing. Karen says, I may make a summer solstice bottle to put out with those herbs in to keep on my altar during the winter to keep the light going. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Kay says, so can we do some sun magic today because it's raining cats and dogs? It's raining cats and dogs here, but it's still light. All the time you have daylight, the sun is still there. It's still up in the skies. It's still sending its solar rays down. So the solar magic is still there, I promise. There's also some foods. Michelle, I will get to crystals, I promise you. There's some food as well. And you can eat these on the summer solstice to bring in the solar magic, or you can use them within your magical workings. So one of my real go-tos that is ruled by the sun and the element of fire, cinnamon. Absolutely brilliant for success, healing, adding a boost of power. It brings in love, it brings focus, it brings spirituality. It also helps with changes. So if you are doing any transformation or manifestation magic, then cinnamon is your go-to. Works brilliantly. Corn is another one. You can use sweet corn, you can use dried corn kernels, you can use cornmeal. All of that works. If you've got the space, draw yourself a sigil or a magical symbol with cornmeal. And that brings in the magic of the sun as well. Dates, as in the little wrinkly fruit, not the dates on your calendar. Very, very good for, they're ruled by the sun. Grapefruit. What else would it be ruled by, really? Hazelnuts. And one of the fruits with one of the most bizarre names ever, kumquats, which are the tiny little orange things. Limes, olives, oranges, obviously, all ruled by the sun. Pineapple. One of the herbs that's brilliant to work with that everybody has is rosemary. That's ruled by the sun. It's also the element of fire. So that brings in a big boost of solar and fire energy. Saffron, interesting one to work with. Quite expensive, but interesting to work with. Makes very nice saffron cakes and saffron buns. Sesame seeds, ruled by the sun. Brilliant to work with any kind of prosperity magic, but also protection. It also brings strength with it as well. And something that we've all got, and I know we can all work with this one, tea. Good old black tea, whether it's loose tea or whether it's your tea in your tea bag. It's ruled by the sun. It's also ruled by the element of fire. So that brings with it a huge punch of solar magic. It's also prosperity, and it also brings strength with it as well, and courage. So a good old cup of tea and you're working sun magic already. And the other thing, red wine. I give you permission to have red wine because it's for magic. It's ruled by the sun, but it's also ruled by the element of fire and the element of earth. So you've got an interesting blend of energies there. It's good for spirituality, it's good for offerings, and it's good for happiness and love. So lots and lots of magical foods that you can bring into your summer solstice celebrations or work into your magic. Michelle says cinnamon is the best. It is one of my go-tos. Kay says cinnamon's lovely. Yeah, cakes, cereals, curries, all sorts of things you can put cinnamon in. Christine says dates look like cockroaches. Actually, you're not wrong. I'm never going to look at them in the same way now. But they do make nice sticky toffee pudding. Tess says with seeds and dried herbs, does it matter if they're old or they still have the same properties? Nope. If I have anything in my spice cupboard that's out of date, it moves automatically to my magical cupboard. In actual fact, spices in particular, although they have to legally have a sell-by date, they never, ever lose their flavour or their power. It reduces a little. The taste of it reduces a little over time. But, I mean, they found spices and things from thousands of years ago that still taste. So no, you can use all of your out-of-date seeds and dried herbs in magic, and they still have the same properties. Kay says one of her daughters nicknamed Safi, and she's fiery. Yeah. Michelle says lots of rosemary in my garden and in pots at the front door. Perfect, because rosemary is also really good for protection. So if you've got it by your front door, that's perfect. John says mullein is good for my feet and is ruled by the sun. Perfect. Jane says butter is sunny. Loads of butter with everything. But it's also dairy. So butter, we will look up for you. Actually, fairies quite like a bit of butter as well. Yeah, see, butter is dairy. So it is actually ruled by the moon. And it is the element of earth. So beautiful as buttery is, and then of course it's a very sunny colour. Yeah, I definitely put loads of butter on everything, but it's actually ruled by the moon, that one. Leslie says, I love butter. Love to see my teeth marks in it. As long as it's your teeth marks and not strange teeth marks left by someone else. I'm sorry, my brain goes to strange places. So, Michelle, finally, crystals. Michelle says butter and honey on bread. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, obviously, honey is perfect for this time of the year. Good old bees are out in my garden, being particularly busy. Honey's not actually ruled by a particular planet, but I think if it was, it would have to be sun, wouldn't it? Interestingly, it's also the element of water and earth rather than fire, which it probably should be as well. I don't know. But it is very much associated with the summer solstice. So honey is perfect. And if you are vegan and don't want to use honey, do have a look at the Kitchen Witch blog, because there's a recipe on there for vegan honey made from dandelions. But honey's brilliant. Happiness, healing, love, prosperity, passion, spirituality, and the fairy. So perfect to use at this time of the year. Okay, says Jamie Oliver was talking about dates, sell by date. It is, I think it's a good guide. If you have a use by date on a pot of yogurt, I probably wouldn't eat it much past that because it is going to go off. But things like spices and dried herbs, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Sue says butter honey on toasted fruit bread. Now, I'm really hungry now, Sue. That sounds delightful. Christine says the crystals I use at the solstice is sunstone, carnelian, and citron. Is that right? Who am I to say, Christine? Who am I to say? If that works for you, then it's absolutely right. But they are ones I've got on my list. Sunstone is brilliant. It does what it says on the tin. It is energy, it is power, it is good old solar magic, all wrapped up in one stone. Citrine is the same. We're going with color magic here, really. Citrine is positive energy. It's wealth, it's success, it's abundance, it's manifestation. So citrine is perfect too. Clear quartz is also a good one because it amplifies energy. It's also really good for manifesting. So clear quartz is, if you only ever buy one crystal, then clear quartz is the one to get because it does everything. Goldstone is one of my particular favorites. It is a man-made stone, but it has got so much solar power to it. It is ambition, it's drive, it's confidence. Wonder why it's one of my favorites. It is about, it's that warrior energy. It's got that real boost to it. So I love working with goldstone. Golden topaz is another one, not one I particularly work with that often, but that one's all about strength and courage as well, and also success. Sulfur, if you can get hold of some sulfur, is very good. It's energy, it's protection. It dispels negative energy and very good for working with your solar plexus. Gold, I mean, obviously we don't have great big lumps of gold lying around, but it is a crystal ruled by the sun. Technically not a crystal either, obviously, but power. It enhances magic, it boosts energy, it directs energy, and it brings success. And you don't have to have a whole bar of gold. If you've just got a gold ring or a little gold necklace, you could use that as your focus for it. Rubies, again, we don't often have those lying around either, but they are really good for encouragement, their energy, their passion. They are about clearing the darkness. So really good to work with on the summer solstice. Rutilated quartz is also really good. It brings perspective. It is a very spiritual stone. It is very cleansing and purifying, but it also brings energy and dispels negative vibes as well. Garnet is another one that works really well for that energy, clearing blockages, bringing happiness and love, attractions. Pyrite, sparkly. It is about strength and connections. It's about guidance as well. It is self-confidence, but it's also a prosperity, gratitude and abundance stone as well. Tiger's eye, got to be a sun, ruled by the sun, really, hasn't it? It is actually sun and earth. So it brings quite an interesting couple of energies together. It is a stone of Ra, sun god Ra. It is success, it's energy, it's power, it's spirituality, it is attraction, it's luck, it's wealth, it's all the good stuff that you want, and bringing it all in. Topaz is another one. Now, most of these stones are all in the yellows, golds, orangey kind of red colours spectrum. Topaz is said to be filled with the energy of the sun god Ra. He does get about that bloke. It's protection, it's strength, it's power, it's success. And the other one, of course, is amber. Again, technically not a crystal because it's tree sap, but manifestation, energy. It actually conducts energy, amber. So it's really good for sending that power in a particular way. It is power, it is wisdom, it's balance as well. and abundance. So that's a really good one to work with. And the last one I have to suggest for you is the diamond. And again, we don't often have those just lying around, but you can use one that's in a ring or in a piece of jewelry. That's really good for abundance. It's good for amplifying things, but it's good for courage and hope and confidence, strength as well. So lots and lots of different stones to work with. They are all ruled by the sun, but I would suggest that you use your own intuition and use what you've got. Don't spend loads and loads of money if you haven't got it. Use whatever stones you have. Lani says orange calcite, perfect for joy, light and happiness. Perfect. Jackie has a quartz with sulfur. A brilliant double whammy of solar energy there. Sue says, my gran would say, if you're worried about any food, smell it. Yep, definitely. Lots of people making suggestions there. I think I've covered most of them, hopefully. Yeah, amber, pyrite, both good. Citrine is cool. Kay calls citrine a giggle stone. Every time I hold one, I just start giggling. It is a stone of happiness. It is a stone of happiness. So that makes perfect sense. Erin has suggested red aventurine. Very nice. John says, why haven't you got piles of gold guarded by a dragon? Well, I do have a fire dragon. That's part of my magical name. Whether he's got a stash of gold somewhere without telling me, I don't know. Xenia says we spent all of our gold for books. Well, absolutely. Alani says many of the Egyptian deities are powerful. I've worked with a few and I still do. Deities across the globe are powerful. Again, same with the fairies. Do your research before you work with any deities. There are a whole list of solar deities as well, but we've talked so much today that you didn't get to them. But they are in the Sun Magic book if you want to have a look. Karen says, amber keeps breaking on me or disappearing and I love it. Yeah, it has a habit of doing that, doesn't it? I think amber it reacts quite harshly to different temperature situations, I believe. Jackie says, when you say citrine, I have both, natural from Congo as well as baked amethyst. Which works best? Well, either, I would say, actually, Jackie, because as far as I am aware, the basic makeup of them is the same. I haven't got my crystal book up here, but it's got the actual technical information in there. Trust your intuition. Pick them both up and decide which one you want to work with. Jane says, off bacon just stinks the house out when my nose blind husband grills it. Yuck. Kay says it's better to use a natural, but there's nothing wrong with baked because it was colour. But it is still natural. The crystal, even though it's baked, it's still a natural crystal. It's had nothing added to it. It's just been heated. And quite often that heating happens naturally. So don't be put off by, like I say, I love working with goldstone and that's completely man-made. Don't be put off by it just because it's man-made. Trust your intuition. All of the stones are different colours because of the natural minerals that are in the ground. And you will find that, or that citrine and amethyst are made from the same basic structure, but one has been heated to make it a different colour, but it may have been heated naturally. So don't chuck it out just because it's not picked by virgin maidens who live on the side of a mountain at dawn and, on a certain day of the calendar year. If it works for you, if it's within your budget, use it. Trust your intuition on it. Michelle says Apollo and Helios. Yeah, there's loads and loads of solar deities. Eva says they are the same. It's quartz. Yes, it is. They are the basic same structure. So don't get too, complicated about it all. It's all still quartz. Take them both in your hand and run with it. And as Eve says, man-made are generally more environmentally friendly. Yeah, because let's face it, crystals are ripped out of the earth. So, Christine was told once by a man who came into the crystal shop that clear quartz left in the sun turns into citrine, and then after time it naturally turns to amethyst. And that's why amethyst is so great. They are all, I have got the details in my crystal book, but it's not here, it's downstairs. They are all basically quartz, and it is, if you leave your crystals in the sun, they will fade. If you leave your citrine or your amethyst in the sun, it will fade. The color will drain out from it. They are naturally made into the different colors because of the different minerals that are in the ground where they're formed. But I do amethyst and citrine and clear quartz, they're all in the same family. If you leave it in the sun, it will not, as far as I'm aware, turn into citrine and then amethyst. But, you know, give it a try. I can hear Pete the Pixie coming up the stairs. Jackie says, I use both for different things. Yeah, no, it's, thank you. It's, trust your intuition on it, Jackie. Yeah, let's, because there's ametrine, isn't there, as well, which is amethyst and crystal mixed, amethyst and citrine mixed together. So here we go. I know I've got it in here somewhere. I know we've run over time. Just bear with me. Yes, here we go. Yeah, because amethyst ranges from lilac to dark purple, which is created by iron impurities and sometimes exposure to natural radiation. Once naturally heated, parts of it will turn yellow, becoming citrine. The mixed stone then becomes ametrine. There are some ametrine that have been artificially heated to create a similar result. So yeah, I thought it was that it becomes citrine because it's naturally heated. So it will have been heated in the ground. So yeah, run with it, Jackie. Trust your intuition on that. I think you use them however you feel they should be used. Here we go. Citrine is a form of quartz. Natural citrine is fairly uncommon. Most of the citrine you find in the shops is created by heat treating amethyst or smoky quartz. It only takes a low temperature to turn the color to a yellow. The higher the temperature, the darker yellow the quartz becomes. There you go. There you go. So natural or man-made. And I don't think it makes a blind bit of difference. You use them for whatever you want to use them for, Jackie. Yes, Eva says it's all quartz. Colors due to very small amounts of the other elements. Yep. But yeah, trust. Yeah, Pete to the rescue. Yes. Xenia says I accidentally had a very beautiful fluorite on my windowsill all the time in the sun shines. Now I have a clear quartz. Yes. Don't leave them out in the sun for a long time because they will fade. So we've gone way over time and we haven't even covered half the stuff I was going to cover. So do have a fantastic summer solstice. Trust your intuition. Use whatever you are guided to use. Use that solar energy to manifest, to create, to make things happen that you want to happen. But keep it simple. Write a petition, put it under the sun, or just light a candle on the summer solstice. Also, you don't have to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning to work with the summer solstice magic. You can work with it anytime just throughout the day. In fact, I would also recommend, if you can, noon on the summer solstice is a very powerful time to work. Karen says Sulis is sun goddess. Yes, she was a healing water goddess, but also connected with the sun. Huge amounts of information thrown around today. Thank you so much, everyone, for your input. If you are around tomorrow, I'm doing a talk for the American Free Spirit Gathering. Details are on my website and on their website, FSG Online. Other than that, have a very, very fantastic summer solstice. And I'd love to see any photos of any of your summer solstice celebrations or your summer solstice altars or spell working. Do pop them on the Kitchen Witch Coven Facebook group. Other than that, I will see you guys all next Friday. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Take care.